Good morning, Pioneers. My name is Connor Morrison.
And my name is Justice Colvin. Welcome to The Grit. Let's start off our show with the weekly sports recap.
On Monday, field hockey took a tough loss.
On Monday, field hockey took a 6-1 loss to Columbus Academy. Senior forward Megan Schrader scored for the girls. Tennis traveled to Olentangy. Field hockey looked to bounce back against back-to-back state champions Thomas Worthington, where they lost 9-0.
Both soccer teams were in action on Tuesday. The girls unfortunately suffered a tough loss 3-2 on the Pioneer turf against Olentangy, with goals from Sophie Garling and Stella Albuquerque. The girls also played yesterday against Gahanna Lincoln at home, where they unfortunately lost 1-0.
The boys traveled to Gahanna Lincoln, winning 3-0. It was all seniors on Tuesday, with goals from Landon King, Michael Hines, and Adam Yamaski. The boys look to continue their winning streak against Olentangy, where they unfortunately lost 2-1.
Due to the heat, tennis was unfortunately canceled on Tuesday, but they were back in action last night against Pickerington North.
Now it's time for the best part of the show. The pick'ems. First up, we got high school football. Week 2, Olentangy Orange versus Westerville North. Obviously the big game here at Orange. Levi Davis coming off of his best game in his career, 4 touchdowns passing and 1 rushing touchdown. Playing a pretty good Westerville North team. They got a left tackle who's going to Ohio State. Quarterback is also pretty elusive. He's a runner. Very much like Levi, honestly. So I'm very excited. They got a small D-line. So I'm going to go with Orange here. I think it's going to be a close game, though. Down to the wire. That's my prediction here. Going like a 28-27 type game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've got to take Orange, obviously. But I think this game will be the first real test for the team. Obviously, last week we had a dominant win over Marysville. But Marysville isn't, the best football team. They didn't have a whole lot of size. Westerville North, obviously, very well respected in the Central Ohio football area. They did well in their game last week. They are predicted to be a very good team. I think it'll definitely be a close game, but got to take Orange here.
Yep, I totally agree with that. Next game, we got Liberty coming off of their 28-0 victory over Olentangy. Complete turnaround from last season. Seems Olentangy is struggling without Ethan Grunkemeyer having the wide receiver core that Liberty does and the running quarterback that they do. They're electric. They're playing Glenville. I'm going to take Liberty here. I'm really on their train. They got one of the best receivers in Central Ohio. Their quarterback's elite. This is a scary Liberty team. I think it's going to be a great end of the season when Orange and Liberty play.
Yeah, I think Liberty, obviously a huge turnaround. We both predicted that Olentangy would win pretty easily. Coach Schrader said, he disagreed with us that Liberty looked like the better team, and he was correct. So good on him for scouting that out. I think I'll take Liberty here as well. I don't know a whole lot about Glenville, quite honestly. Liberty obviously looked really strong against Olentangy, so I think that momentum probably carries over to the next game.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then the other Olentangy school, we got Olentangy High School coming off of a 28-0 loss, unlike Liberty. They're playing Medina. I don't even know who that is, so I'm taking Olentangy.
So I do know some people up there. It is pronounced Medina, so they probably aren't watching the show, but it might be they might get a little upset at you. I don't know a lot about their football team. I know a couple people that live up there, but I guess I'll just take Olentangy here just for the sake that I don't know anything about Medina's football team.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know that was a school. And then the final Olentangy team coming off of a 17-10 victory against DeSales. Berlin playing Upper Arlington. Honestly, they did not look super great, as strong as they did last year. So I'm going to take UA here. I think Olentangy sweeps except for this one. UA is I've heard they're a pretty solid football team this year. So I think I'm going to have to take UA here. And I think Berlin they didn't look as strong as they did last year. The defense struggled. The only reason they won is off of a fumble on the 1-yard line to end the game.
Yes, I agree. Berlin obviously lost a lot of seniors last year, since it was, the 4th year that the school had been built. So a lot of those players, ended up leaving the team. They now have a bit of a younger team. Some of their skill position players left. And like you said, the defense didn't look as good as they've usually had a pretty dominant defense. So I'll also take Upper Arlington. I just don't think that all 4 Olentangy teams win in week 2. It's plausible, but I just don't see it happening. So I'll take Upper Arlington there as well.
I'm glad we agree on every single game.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some college football briefly. College football kicks off this weekend. Ohio State has their home opener against Akron tomorrow at 3:30. The most anticipated game this weekend is number 1 seeded Georgia hosting the 14th seeded Clemson. The Tigers have not been a week 1 underdog since 2012.
Some other notable games this weekend are number 7 Notre Dame traveling to number 20 Texas A&M, as well as 13th LSU against 23rd ranked USC. This all follows a crazy week 0 upset in Dublin, Ireland, where unseeded Georgia Tech defeated number 10 ranked FSU.
So let's get into these pick'ems for a little bit. Obviously, let's start off with Ohio State Akron. That's an easy pick. Ohio State, number 2 seeded team in preseason. They kept a lot of their seniors. A lot of those seniors on Ohio State want revenge. They haven't performed as well the past 2 years to the expectations that Ohio State usually lives up to as far as playing well in the college football playoff or beating Michigan. So things of that nature. I think a lot of seniors returned, and then also they got some key starters who are freshmen like Jeremiah Smith, who's one of the best wide receiver prospects that Ohio has seen in a while, or that football has seen in a while. So I think Ohio State by a landslide there.
Yeah, I mean, Akron is one of the worst MAC-10 schools going against one of the best, if not the best, Big Ten school. So I think Ohio State, this is a good warm-up game. They can't get overconfident. We get to see the senior quarterback, Will Howard, transferring from Kansas State. We get to see Quinshon Judkins transfer. Caleb Downs, his first game as a Buckeye. I'm really excited. It's going to be a fun game. It's a good little warm-up game to see if Ohio State can make a national championship run this year. You know, they're second ranked. Just really settle in and get a feel for these newer players and how they fit into the system that is Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree. And then let's talk about the most anticipated game this weekend, Georgia versus Clemson. Georgia 1 seed and Clemson 14th seed. Like I said earlier, Clemson hasn't been a week 1 underdog since 2012, so more than 10 years in college football not being an underdog. Georgia has been the most dominant team in college football the past 4 to 5 years. I think that, even though it's a 14th ranked team, Georgia just can't be stopped in the college football scheme right now. I think that Georgia will win the game pretty handily, quite honestly.
Yeah, Clemson has really fallen off since Ohio State beat them in 2020 in the playoffs. When Trevor Lawrence left, the quarterback play has not been there. You had Deshaun Watson, then you had Trevor Lawrence, 2 great quarterbacks back to back, and now they're kind of in a little bit of a rut with Cade Klubnik. He's an all right QB. He's just not going to get the job done against the number one team in the country. I mean, Kirby Smart's a great coach, great defensive mind. He's going to put a stop to anything that Clemson can really come up with, in my opinion. I think that Clemson could put up a fight. It's going to really depend on how good this Georgia offense is. But people are saying this Carson Beck, the quarterback, is going to have a great year this year, Heisman candidate. So I think Georgia pretty handily gets the win here with a nice ranked win to start off the season.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, moving on to Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. Notre Dame, in my personal opinion, is probably one of the most overrated college football teams in college football. They always start with a pretty high seed. By the end of the season, they're unranked. They've lost, 4 or 5 games. They're an independent school. They can play whoever they want. So I think that they'll probably win this game, but don't expect a whole lot out of Notre Dame like in recent years.
I can't say too much about Notre Dame. If you know, you know. I'm looking at these 2 teams. I think Texas A&M is another one of those teams, as you're saying, what you think about Notre Dame. Texas A&M is also one of those teams who get hyped up a lot and really never, meet the mark that they're set to. They lost a lot of wide receivers in the transfer portal. They got hit pretty hard. They got a great atmosphere, though. They've considered one of the hardest stadiums to play in. I think it's going to be a good game, but I do think Notre Dame is going to slow down the game. They're a very good rushing team. They always have been. I think the Fighting Irish get a win there.
I'd agree with that. And then for our final college football pick this week is LSU versus USC. 2 teams that had 2 very high-powered, Heisman-winning quarterbacks, and they're both gone now. So I'm not really sure what to expect from either of these teams. I know that obviously the quarterback play is going to be downgraded a bit. I know that USC's defense was awful last year, so I think that realistically I'll probably take LSU. They're seated a little bit higher in this matchup, so I'll just go with the.
Going with the Tigers?
Yeah, I'll go with the Tigers.
You know, this is a tough one because I really am not on either of these teams' trains. I think LSU had better recruiting. They had a better backup quarterback situation, better receiving core. USC's defense, I mean, they couldn't stop anything last year. I mean, they were like, it was like trying to catch a shark with your bare hands sometimes. It was just basically impossible for them. I mean, I'm going to go with LSU here. I believe they're home for this game, if I remember correctly. Yes. So, again, I think the home atmosphere is going to be very difficult for this Trojans team to play in. So, I'm going to also take LSU.
Yeah, absolutely. LSU in Death Valley, it's one of the hardest stadiums in college football to go to and win. So, that definitely will play into it.
Well, I'm glad we agree on all the games.
Yep. So, one last reminder that tonight the Pioneers take on Westerville North on the road for their second game of the season. The game kicks off at 7 p.m.
The theme for tonight's game is country. Make sure to show up, be loud, and support the boys tonight. Now, before we finish up the show for today, we would like to take a moment to honor the death of Blue Jackets hockey player Johnny Gaudreau, who tragically passed away last night. Johnny, for the past 2 seasons, has been the best player on the Jackets and a great player throughout his career. Our hearts go out to his friends and family. Let's all take a moment to honor his memory.
That's all for sports this week. Thank you for tuning in to The Grit. I'm Connor Morrison.
And I'm Justin Cullivan. Make sure to watch your Nears in action this week. Roll Nears, and see you next week on The Grit.